Welcome back to another episode 2 of the new podcast here on Project Prospect called The Draft Dodgers. We're here to talk draft 24/7, 365 days a year. And what better time than Sunday nights to kind of just throw in a little curveball, a little break from the norm of regular Sunday football. Let's throw in another mock draft. We're going to change it up a little bit this week. Last week, we kind of just went tit for tat and just drafted straight down the board. This week, we're going to have a couple trades. But before I do that, let me bring in my esteemed co-host for the Draft Dodgers. You all know him. You all love him. Welcome, Tigo.
Hello, Dom.
Hey, Tigo. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great.
Another good Sunday of football, man.
Yes, it was. It was good because, obviously, the Jets, they play on Monday, so I didn't really have to focus on today. Was just able to go with the family, hang out, celebrate my birthday. It was a cool week.
Yeah, happy birthday, by the way.
Yeah,
Belated.
thank you.
Yeah,
Yep.
no worries, man. Yeah, I was in and out and about. My kids had soccer, so I was all over the place today, all over the state, and didn't have any real concerns in the world because we got Monday Night Football tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yep.
So, threw in a wrinkle. We threw in a couple of trades this week, right?
That we did. I think it was really funny leading up to this because we were like, every draft is going to have trades. It's going to have moves. And we thought, instead of just running another mock draft while we prep some other content for you guys, and just run it down, let's do some trades. And I thought it was hilarious because the list of teams that you said, okay, these teams can trade. I was like, I don't think any of these teams are going to trade. These are the teams. And it just immediately starts divulging into chaos because it's just, what's your evaluation on this team? So we came up with 3 trades that I think that we like that get you in a mock draft season kind of mood. And I think it'll be fun and interesting.
Yeah. You want to talk about the first trade and we'll pull the board up and get it going?
Yeah, absolutely. So first trade was one brought up by Dom C, and it was the Giants, who are at number 4, coming up to number 1 to go and get their guy. We know that Brian Daboll is an offensive guy, is an offensive mind, and he was able to go out there and do what he did with Josh Allen and kind of turn him into the superstar that he is. I don't know if he's in love with the Daniel Jones experiment, but I think that when you look at the evaluation of this draft, I don't think the Giants expect to be picking this high very often. So they're trading up to number 1 to go and get their quarterback. And I think it's pretty simple. While I don't have him as QB1, his traits are off the board. And if you're Daboll, I think you got to go and get Caleb Williams out of USC. And that's what the Giants did. They came up to number 1 to go and get Caleb Williams, quarterback out of USC. Yes, I do have Drake May as quarterback 1 in the class for me. Mm-hmm. But if you're comparing a guy who looks more like Josh Allen, the quarterback that that Daboll came from, it's Caleb Williams. So Caleb Williams, welcome to New York.
Yeah, and listen, unfortunately, it looks like they're fearing a torn ACL for Daniel Jones after today's game. So we know he's under contract at least for one more year, and then before they have their out. But what better time to go get your possible quarterback of the future than now when you're picking this high? So I love this idea. I'm not a Giant hater, but this to me makes too much sense. And that leaves me up on the board with the Bears. And again, I don't think there's too much to do here. I personally think the Justin Fields experiment is done. Yep. Again, I think this is a spot where the Bears are going to say, okay, we have 2 picks in the top 10. Hopefully we're not picking here all that high ever again. They went and they spent the second round draft capital to go get their edge, and they locked him up long term, Montez Sweat. So I think that's one guy. It is Montez Sweat, right? That's who they traded for.
Yeah, they traded for Sweat.
I thought of Chase Young for a second, but he went to San Francisco. Yeah, so they went and they locked up their defensive, their edge. So that's one more positional need checked off the mark. So to me, this is a no-brainer. I think the Justin Fields experiment is coming to an end. He wasn't drafted. I'm assuming they're going to move on from Eberflus.
Yep.
So new coach, new quarterback. Go get Arguably, arguably the best quarterback in the draft. Although I like Caleb Williams a little bit better, but I'm gonna go ahead and take North Carolina's Drake May at number 2 for Chicago, and that leaves you up with the Bears at number 3.
Yeah, and I think you keep the same thing. I think one of the things that we need to get used to with every mock draft is if it doesn't go one of Caleb Williams, followed by Drake May, followed by Marvin Harrison Jr., the wide receiver out of Ohio State, kind of just throw the draft out. I think this is how it's going to happen. And you immediately in Chicago, I think that's where Ben Johnson ends up, is in Chicago, because can you imagine Drake May, Marvin Harrison Jr., DJ Moore, Darnell Mooney, that offensive line? That's a really, really, really potent offense that now Ben Johnson has the ability to do whatever he wants with. So Marvin Harrison Jr. goes to Chicago, and I think that that's really all you need to say. He's clearly wide receiver 1 in this class, and now you partner wide receiver. Now you have 2 wide receiver 1s on your team for your young quarterback.
I like it. So that leaves me up on the board with Arizona trading back from 1 to 4.
Yep.
In this scenario, they're sticking with Kyler. Kyler Murray is the guy. He's the quarterback. He's going to be the one with that big contract that leads them hopefully to the promised land. So there's a bunch of different ways you can go here, and it's funny because I don't know how well the board lines up for them here. Right?
Yeah.
They have a need at cornerback. I think cornerback makes completely sense. I don't like any of the guys this high. To me, if I was the GM here, I'd probably and I was focusing on a cornerback, I'd probably look to trade back. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to. You got a defensive-minded coach and Jonathan Gannon there, So I'm going to go ahead and take the guy on defense, I think, who offers them a little bit of versatility, who could probably fit right into a role in Jonathan Gannon's defense right off the bat. Someone who can apply pressure and get at the quarterback. Someone who has the chops and has shown it this year, which I really, really liked in his game, is that he can play. He can even play that off-ball stand-up. He's not a one-trick pony. I'm going to go ahead and select the edge rusher from Alabama, Dallas Turner, here for Arizona and start fixing that front 7 of the defense.
Yeah, I think it makes a ton of sense. Defensive, I think a lot of what I've been seeing, I have a couple of friends who are Cardinals fans and a couple of content creators, and I think that they kind of like where the offense is at. They maybe would like a wide receiver, and in this position, I might have looked at Neighbors.
I thought about Neighbors also. I thought about Cooley McKinstry, and for me, you know what? I think I just like the flexibility and the versatility that Dallas Turner has. He's shown that he can get at the quarterback, and he's also shown that he could drop back and play off ball and coverage in certain situations. So more well-rounded this year than I thought he played last year. So like I said, you got to start spending some money on that defense at some point.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. Defensive-minded head coach, go and get a guy for the defense, and that makes a ton of sense. I like the pick, especially with Turner's versatility. And then we have trade number 2 in the mock draft. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who were picking at 8, didn't want to see anybody else come off the board, and they don't want the New England Patriots to take their quarterback. They're moving on from Baker Mayfield. I also think that this is a possibility of them moving on from their head coach, Todd Bowles. And this is the world in which I'm living in, is Todd Bowles is gone. So the new head coach isn't going to want to keep Baker. He's going to want to go and bring in his guy. And so they come up and they go get... This is the first curveball of the draft because you and I rank our quarterbacks so differently, but I'm going to ignore the injury history. He had such a huge win this Saturday. I'm taking Michael Penix Jr., quarterback out of Washington. If he can pass a physical, there is no world in which Michael Penix is not QB3. In my opinion, it just doesn't happen in this class. I love this kid's athleticism and his arm. And one of the things that I really liked from this past weekend that we saw from Michael Penix was that he was out there trying to show that he isn't made of glass. He was out there running and moving around and dropping a shoulder and leading the charge for Washington to go and get that big win. Michael Penix Jr., I love this pick for New England. just, dude, the guy's a crazy athlete. And if he can stay healthy, I think he can be a force in the NFL.
Yeah, it's too rich for my blood. And like you said, we differ a little bit on our quarterback rankings. I will say this: I watched the USC UW game, from start to finish, and man, those are two impressive offenses. Or two awful defenses. I'm still not sure exactly which way to go, but
Yes.
hey, listen, Michael Penix played within himself. He played very well. I just don't. To me, he's still not a top 30 player in this draft class. And like I said, it's still so early. It's only November 5th, so things can change. But for me, I'm not spending. I'm probably not spending the first round draft capital at all on him, let alone a top 5. But alas, I digress, because you were making the pick for Tampa Bay.
Yep.
And that leaves me up for
the Rams.
Yeah, and this doesn't take too much for me. I think it's time. Not even a time, but they're gonna have to at some point start, bringing an influx of talent. They're very, they made their push. They got their Super Bowl title, and at the expense of kind of slowing down the process of keep being able to maintain depth and talent on this roster. They are void of talent. They need to just start plucking guys in and plugging them in. And heck, F them picks is what the Rams usually say, but now they're in the top 6. And I'm
last first round pick they had was Jared Goff.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and oh man, I'm tempted, but I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna stay true to my board, true to what I think they're gonna do. They need a tackle. They need 2 tackles. So I'm gonna go ahead and take left tackle or offensive tackle number 1 off of my board, and that's Oli Fashanu from Penn State. He's a pick. He comes in and he plays long-term left tackle for them, and they can address or worry about the right tackle. Maybe Warren McClendon, who they drafted last year, can bump over to right tackle. I don't think that the talent of a 20-year-old, soon to be 21-year-old Oli Fashanu, and the ridiculous ceiling and athleticism is worth passing up here. So this is, for me, as close to a no-brainer as it comes. Oli Fashanu's the pick.
Yeah, I think it makes a ton of sense. I think you have to walk away with a tackle. You have to start protecting, what is the rest of Matthew Stafford's career, however long that's going to be. And I love the pick. And Green Bay's next at 7. And I think we're going to see another tackle off the board. I think that while a lot of people, including myself, especially in this position, might look at the quarterback, I don't know if the GM and the head coach who picked Jordan Love are ready to move on from him. Now, again, we're still midway through the season, and technically Jordan Love is only on a 1-year deal. So depending on how the season goes, this might be the next quarterback that comes off of the board, and I would not be surprised. But if you're the Green Bay Packers and you're looking here and you're staring down the barrel of possibly your left tackle of the future, I'm just going to go to tackle 1B, and I'm going to take Joe Alt out of Notre Dame for the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, and he slides in there at left tackle. Next to Tom for the next probably 8-10 years, no problems. Yep. And they're in good shape there. I can't imagine that tackle isn't going to be a priority, whether it's through free agency or through the draft for them. So to me, This is a no-brainer. And Joe Alt seems like a Packer, right? He's a guy that's going to go out there and play sleeveless in 0-degree weather and love every minute of it.
Yeah. Again, it's certain picks, because I think we had Joe Alt to Green Bay last draft too.
Sure.
And it's just like, well, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes a ton of sense.
And that leaves me on the board here at New England. Now I can go a bunch of different ways here.
Yeah.
I don't know what makes most sense. Whew. But I'm going to flip it up. And although I don't think that Mac Jones is the worst quarterback, I think there's a really, really good chance that if on the board, if they're in position here to draft a quarterback this high, they might go do it. But our last draft, version 1.0, I had them taking J.J. McCarthy at number 5. And I'm going to switch it up a little bit. And I'm going to I'm going to stay on the offensive side of the board, but I'm going to give them. They are just void at the skill position, so I'm going to take Malik Neighbors and put him on that New England offense. Someone with some yak ability to line up opposite side of Juju Smith-Schuster and some of those other young guys that they got, some of the field stretchers, and maybe let the speed and overall talent, and like I said, the ability with the yards after the catch, kind of help Mac Jones kind of maintain his position as quarterback one for the team for now. So Malik Neighbors is slowly rising up my board. I think it's a fair argument right now that he's almost locked in as the second best wide receiver in this class. So Malik Neighbors, you are a New England Patriot.
Yeah, I love the pick. I love the fit. He's that shifty, he's going to create separation type of wide receiver, and they need the skill position help desperately. And I don't know if Bill is ready to admit his faults with Mac Jones yet.
Yeah.
So I love this pick. And I have the Denver Broncos here at 9. And the last mock draft we did, we had them going wide receiver because we assumed that one of Sutton or Judy was going to be gone. Now, while technically there is still a lot of time between now and the draft, and they don't have to re-sign Jerry Judy, right now he is still on the team. And I don't think that the biggest problem in Denver is actually on the offensive side of the ball. I think that Russell Wilson is playing much, much better. I think Williams is doing good things out of the back room. I think the wide receivers are good enough. And I think that their biggest concern is actually on the defensive side of the ball. And while they have arguably the best or the second best or the third best, depending on how you rank your cornerbacks in Patrick Surtain, I don't think he has a running mate at all. And this is where I'm looking at, a guy that I am slowly but surely starting to fall in love with more and more and more the more I watch him. I'm going to go the cornerback out of Alabama, and I'm going to take Kool-Aid McKinstry here and send him to Denver so that now you're looking at trying to recreate with your defense what the Jets do, what the Eagles have done recently, and just have two of the best corners, like just a cornerback pairing that cannot be matched, and create coverage sacks. Instead of saying, let's just send wave after wave after the quarterback and hope that we get there quickly. If guys can't get open, your pass rush will hit home eventually. And so partnering Kool-Aid with Pat Surtain is what I am going to be doing here.
Dude, can you imagine just manning up on each side of the ball, pressed up with Patrick Surtain and Kool-Aid McKinstry? I mean, that's like Darrelle Revis and Antonio Cromartie, 2.0. You could just send the rest of the guys, and they got their man on lock. So
that is exactly what went through my head. Is just like, dude, you can send 5 every single time, time. Just send 5 because that Kool-Aid and Pat Surtain, they're going to hold up for 3 or 4 seconds. Like they're just going to stick to their man, and so you just play man coverage like 60% of the time, and it'll just work because those guys are that good.
Yeah. And that leaves me up with Tennessee.
The Titans, sorry.
Tennessee. So I think that, I don't know if we have to really think about the quarterback anymore, right? In 2 games so far, Will Levis has looked every bit of the role that some people thought he was.
Noted quarterback, Tigo quarterback, Will Levis.
Yeah. So he is, he's good. So I'm really thinking 2 different ways here. They spent some high capital the past couple years on the offensive line. And I think Peter Skoronski, their first round pick last year, has been everything as advertised, coming in at left guard and really dominating. But along the rest of the offensive line, there's still some holes here. But you see a talent like Brock Bowers on the board, and what could be better than getting more weapons for Will Levis to throw to? However, I am going to bypass Brock Bowers right now.
Get my quarterback to a weapon.
Yeah, but you know what? What good is a weapon if you can't protect them?
You're not wrong.
So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take one of the fast risers up the board here, Talisi Fuaga from Oregon State. he's a right tackle right now, and he can play right tackle the next round. I think he could be a dominant guard, and and then they can worry about the tackles elsewhere. Nicholas Petit-Frere, who they drafted a couple years ago, has been manning the right tackle. So even if you want to start Fuaga inside at the opposite guard outside of Skoronski, or move Petit-Frere to left tackle in place of Andre Dillard and put Fuaga at right tackle. I just like the flexibility that Fuaga brings. And I mean, he is an absolute dominant mauler in the run game. And we know, I mean, the tendencies for Tennessee has always been run first. So Fuaga for me makes sense here. I'm going to just keep attacking the trenches and putting dogs in there. And they got a nice little foundation there with Skoronski and Fuaga.
Yeah, I love this pick. Fuaga flew up my boards once I started doing my tackle evaluations, and I have him as tackle 3 right now. And I love him as a pure right tackle, like just elevating as a right tackle. And now I have the Chargers here at 11. And while, yes, they should pick Jer'Jon Newton out of the defensive interior out of Illinois, I'm not going to do that pick today. I want to change it up a little bit. And I don't want to be doing kind of like the same things over and over again. And so I'm not going to take Newton, because I also, when I look at this team and when I look at it, I go, yeah, they need help in the defensive interior. Absolutely. But they also need help on the outside. Mac, Bosa, Tuipulotu, they're getting home eventually, right? They're getting there, but it almost seems like a little too late. And the J.C. Jackson experiment did not work. And then after last week's draft, I started looking at the corners, and you are absolutely right. Nate Wiggins, the cornerback out of Clemson, is a dog, and he's who I'm going to take here. I'm going to take Nate Wiggins, and I'm going to send him to Los Angeles to play for the San Diego Chargers. I refuse. They're from San Diego. Send them back. But I like the idea of partnering Asante Samuel Jr. with Nate Wiggins and starting to build up that secondary. The problem in Los Angeles right now for the Chargers is like the secondary just can't hold up. People are running wide open. And so if Mac isn't absolutely dominating the game, which we know he can do, the game just doesn't work. The game plan just doesn't work in their favor. So Nate Wiggins, you're a Charger.
Yeah, and that leaves me up with Atlanta.
Yep.
Oh man. All right, I'm not going to think too hard about this. I think there's a couple positions that can be addressed. I think that Nate Wiggins would have lined up amazingly next to AJ Terrell. Bring back the 2 Clemson boys. He was definitely in consideration. I think that another wide receiver makes sense here as well. Even though they have 2 pass catching options that they don't use, very well in Drake London and Kyle Pitts. I'm going to veer away, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take somebody that hopefully can start throwing these receivers the ball. And I'm going to take my quarterback 3 in this class right now, and I'm going to take J.J. McCarthy out of the University of Michigan.
Yep.
And let him kind of step in, and whether he steps in and becomes the man right off the bat, or they kind of ease him in with the combination of Heineke and or Desmond Ridder. I think J.J. McCarthy has the goods. Like I said, I think he's one of those players who, as the years have gone by, he's just gotten better and better. He can make any throw on the field. I really like his poise. I like the way he sees the field. He's one of those guys who I think is going to be a much better pro than he is college quarterback. And I love the fact that he's 21 and mobile enough to be a really good fit in Arthur Smith's offense if he's still there. That is. So McCarthy's my pick.
Yeah, I don't have McCarthy as my next quarterback on my list yet. I haven't seen him do it against a competition that matters yet, and I've only seen him throw one way, and that's just as hard as he can, just lined at people. And so I want to see him do it a little bit more. I get all of the love for JJ McCarthy, and I love this pick of quarterback here for the Atlanta Falcons. I truly do. I don't think you can run it back with Ritter and Heineke, especially if you're Arthur Smith. You need to figure out a way to get the ball moving through the air. So I love this pick. Washington is up, and Washington, another noted Tigo quarterback in Sam Howell, QB1 for me in that draft. Made it all the way to the 5th round. No idea how. But he is doing some really good things for the Commanders. And yes, I love Brock Bowers, and I want to get him a tight end, and he definitely needs a tight end, but they just traded Sweat and Young, and they need to start recouping some of the pieces for that team on the defensive line. They need to start doing some things there. And I think again, this guy should be, I think we can both agree, this guy should be a top 10 pick, but he medically retired. And that's a hard thing to look past. But if you're looking at pure just skill set, how do you pronounce his first name?
Hulatu?
Yeah.
Luatu
is going to be the pick for me. I really, really like his skill set, his pass rush, what he can do, standing up, hand in the ground, out as that, I love his skill set that he has. And then he can also kind of drop into coverage and cover a tight end for a couple of seconds if you need to. In that 3-4 that the Commanders run right now, I think he would really, really live up to the hype. And I don't think we picked Latu in last draft. And I think that was a little bit of an oversight, worrying about the injuries a little bit too much. Yeah. I think that there are going to be teams like the same thing with Michael Penix. I think there are going to be teams that are willing to overlook the injury history and bank on the traits. And if you're Washington, I think you can kind of get away with that a little bit. I like Latu a lot.
So Latu is by far probably the most dominating pass rusher in college football this year.
Yep.
He is worthy of this selection. Like I said, I don't know if that next one will hold up, but I do want to correct you. And I'm not going to say it should affect the pick either. Washington does play a 4-man even front, but Latu can put his hand down in the dirt on the edge if he needs to as well.
Do they? I thought they played a 3-4.
No. I mean, they have some 3. They vary back and forth, but their base set is 4-3.
Got it. I thought they played a 3-4.
I'm up with Indianapolis, and I am shimmying up to the podium. To me, Brock Bowers, perfect fit for this offense. They are void of anything in the tight end room. Mo Alley Cox, Kylan Grayson, Will Mallory. Who do they have? They drafted somebody last year, and I believe they're hurt. Who is it? Well, for the life of me, I can't remember. Anyhow, nonetheless, I'm going to go ahead and just lock down Brock Bowers. Probably, arguably, the best offensive talent in this draft, and maybe the highest ceiling of all the draft picks altogether.
Yep.
And welcome to Indianapolis. Anthony Richardson, you're welcome.
Yeah, best a quarterback's best friend is a tight end, so go get the best one in this draft.
Right. That's right.
I love this pick. They have the Raiders. Now, the Raiders are interesting, right? Because obviously between last draft and this draft, they've benched Jimmy G. They've fired McDaniel. O'Connell has come in and just absolutely annihilated the Giants, dropped 30 on them. So there is this question of, is O'Connell the guy? Is he not the guy? Do they take a quarterback here? I have no idea what they're going to do on the offensive side of the ball. But I'm just going to go and operate under the assumption that, you know what, they're going to give O'Connell an opportunity because he's probably going to run the rest of the season. And if he does well, he's earned that spot. And I continue to look back and say, you know what the Raiders really, really need to do? They need to get Max Crosby a friend. They need to get Max Crosby a friend. And he feels so lonely out there by himself. And so I'm going to get him a friend, and he might not be here because I think he's going to be a Charger, but he is here. I'm going to get Jerjon Newton, the interior defensive lineman, to run with Max Crosby and to just have the ability to, dude, if you can create some pressure up the middle and push the quarterback back towards the back of the pocket, we know Max Crosby's going to be winning over the top and just bull rushing through a tackle. So just let's go sack the quarterback a bunch. Jerjon Newton to Las Vegas.
No, I like it. I mean, they need some dogs up there as well. Jerjon Newton is very good. Probably would have been my pick right here, as I'm up again for Arizona, who's picking in the Houston Texans spot, correct?
Yes, for the Will Anderson Jr. trade.
For the Will Anderson Jr. trade. So let me refresh. They took Dallas Turner last time, addressing the edge.
Yep.
Okay, so this is probably kind of simple for me. I'm going to go ahead and stay on the defensive side of the ball, but I'm going to head towards the back. And this might be a little bit of a reach or a little bit of a stretch. But I think that he is very worthy and that good. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take. No, man. No, I'm not.
Ooh.
I changed my mind. I was going to take Cam Kitchens, but
I knew it. I was hovering it. I was circling it for the audience.
I was going to take Cam Kitchens, and that still might be the pick. But it correct me if I'm wrong. They did just redo Buda Baker's contract, correct?
Yep. There's 2 safeties.
Yeah,
and they traded Isaiah Simmons.
Yeah, no, but I mean, but Buda plays more of that free, and Cam Kitchens is a true free safety. I don't know if I like either of them really moving over. I guess he can, but that's okay because I'm just going to pivot and I'm going to take. I'm still going to address the defensive backfield, and I'm going to take cornerback from Ohio State, Denzel Burke, a guy who I'm going to keep picking in the first round because I think he's that good of a cornerback. Very smooth, active, very versatile, can play, man can play press man, can play off man, has zone, good at the point of attack. He's a short tackler, so on and so forth. He's a guy that is just going to find his way home in this 15 to 30 area. So what better spot to put him in than a team who's now currently starting Marco Wilson and Antonio Hamilton at cornerback.
Yeah.
So, Denzel Burke.
It's a good pick. I have the Buffalo Bills at 17, which is very interesting. Last week we had them taking an offensive. No, we had them taking a wide receiver. They had Rome Odunze. And while I still look at wide receiver as a pick, and if I'm being true to myself, this is probably the pick that I would do again. I do want to change things up a little bit. And again, if we're looking at the Buffalo Bills, and I don't want to keep making the same picks, I think one of the places that they definitely need help is along the defensive line. Now, they're not going to be able to get out of that contract for, oh my gosh, why am I blanking on his name? He's hurt.
Ed Oliver?
No, the other one. The edge.
Leonard Floyd, Von Miller.
Well, they're not going to be able to get out of the Von Miller contract, and hopefully he can find some health and be productive there. They have Rousseau, who's been really, really good. I think they need some help in the middle. They have Ed Oliver there, and he's not playing great, and he doesn't really have a running mate. And so a guy that continues to fly up boards is Leonard Taylor III out of Miami, and I like this pick for Buffalo. This is the pick that I'm going to be making. I like this pick for Buffalo straight up for the fact that I like the idea of solidifying that defensive line, and just the Buffalo Bills recently have been known for a dominating defense and then a high-flying offense that can go all out with Josh Allen, who has the interception bug, but they don't care because the defense can hold up. Well, the defense hasn't been holding up recently, so let's adjust the defensive line and let's go get Leonard Taylor to play up the middle in Buffalo.
Wow. Leonard Taylor is a guy that I have not warmed up nearly this high on. All the talent in the world, but for me, from what I see, I can't get behind a guy who, oh man, I just messed up. Oh, I messed up. Who I can't get behind a guy who takes plays off, and that's what I see in him. Like, he's not an effort guy. But I digress. I know a lot of people love him, and I know a lot of people love what his upside and what he actually can bring. So that leaves me up with
and real quick note,
go ahead.
Real quick note, partnering him with another Hurricane. I forgot that Rousseau went to Miami.
Yeah.
Forgot about that. Fun fact. Go ahead. You're with Seattle at 18. They traded up, and the Jets traded back.
Now let's talk about that for a minute, because why did Seattle trade up? Was this Tigo more of a Seattle trading up? Yeah, you could say that, but I think we were both in agreement that we want to kind of recoup some of the draft capital that the Jets lost in the Aaron Rodgers trade.
Yep.
So we're moving down. Some people are going to be very angry when they're watching this if they're Jets fans, but there's method to our madness here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there is a specific player in mind. Like if you're Seattle and you're looking at it, there is a player that is that should be on the New York Jets board, that should be on the Cincinnati Bengals board, and should be on Seattle's board that I think would really, really help them. And with Taylor and Newton gone, that help across the defensive line that they need is a thing that they can address later. So I hope you go the way that I think they should go and why they made this trade in my mind, but we'll see. It is totally up to you. Seattle is on the clock.
So, I look at the defense, right? I know they just signed. I know they just traded for Leonard Williams, and giving Leonard Williams giving up a second round draft pick for Leonard Williams kind of makes me believe that they're going to try, at least their intentions are to work out some sort of long-term deal to keep him in town. And listen, if not, and he signs a big contract elsewhere, they get the comp pick for it. So win-win. They're trying to win now as well as later on down the road. But you look at Leonard Williams, who's pushing 30. You look at Jaron Reed in the middle there at nose tackle, right? He's probably well over 30. And they got Draymond Jones, in there. And I'm talking about up front in their odd front. Bobby Wagner still man in the middle there. I mean, how old is Bobby Wagner now? 33?
30, I think so. I think he's 34.
Yeah. Jordan Brooks, I don't know how he's been playing, to, full disclosure, since he's come back from that injury. He mans the middle linebacker there. I know they drafted Derek Hall, who I really liked in last year's draft. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick a guy who some might think that this might be a little early for him, but I really don't. And I'm looking at that odd man, that 5 tech, 6'eye, kind of like big 3-4 end, some guy that can play the run and get at the quarterback when necessary, but more so, has that big body, that brute strength that can hold up and so on and so forth. So I'm going to stay home in the state of Washington. I'm going to take Braylon Trice, the defensive end from the University of Washington Huskies. You watched him play against USC, and you really saw the talent that he is. Now, I don't think that he's a true 4-3 edge at all times. Like right now, he's a bull in a china shop. He's power rush, bull rush, kind of go at him. I think he's best suited to kind of take that Leonard Williams role and like play 5 tech, 6'eye, so on and so forth. Stout against the run and can still get at the quarterback when need to. So might be a little early, especially with guys like Jared Verse still on the board. I was tempted, but I'm going to go ahead and take Braylon Trice. I like the player.
Very interesting. This is not where I thought that you were going at all, especially with what I consider their biggest needs to be. I'm not saying I dislike the pick. I really do like the Braylon Trice pick, especially like if they do keep Leonard Williams, because now you have Williams and Trice, and now you're starting to build up the pieces on that defensive line, which is where they need the help. Mm-hmm. So that's very interesting. That leaves me on the board with the Cincinnati Bengals at 19. And this is the player that I would have taken for Seattle. And I think that they're going to take here. You have to address the offensive line. It is still the issue. Williams is playing well at the right side. You just gave big money to Orlando Brown Jr., so you're not really going to be able to move him off of the left side. But the reality is that Graham Barton, the tackle out of Duke, can play all 5 positions on the offensive line.
Yeah.
He should not be listed as a tackle. He should be listed as offensive lineman, because you can go in there and you can say, okay, you're going to play left guard. Cool. Okay. You're going to play right guard. Cool. Oh, you're going to play center. Cool. Oh, you know what? We're going to move Orlando Brown Jr. to guard, and now you're going to play left tackle. Cool. Like, you can do whatever you want. And it's one of those Elijah Vera Tucker-esque players he is whatever you need him to be in that moment on the offensive line. So the Cincinnati Bengals, I think the piece that they're missing is, one, the tight end, which I did consider here, but I don't like a tight end this high in the first round that's not named Brock Bowers. And Graham Barton is too big of a value to pass up on. So you're on the board at 20 with the New Orleans Saints.
With the New Orleans Saints, huh? Whew. Let me think about this, because my board is screwed. For some reason, I have Minnesota up here, so I was unprepared here for the Saints. Let's think about this, though. Plenty of areas that they can go. As a matter of fact, I don't think I have to think too long about this. How much longer is the corpse of Michael Thomas going to still be on the field? Not much longer, right? I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take another big X for them. He's really, really good. He's a little bit older of a prospect, transferred to Florida State from Michigan State, but has really upped his game. It gives that, that high ball 50-50 versatility, fast enough to get down the field, but a true X nonetheless, and one hell of a player in Keon Coleman. And I'm going to line him up. I'm going to line him up next to Chris Olave for the next however many years.
Yeah, this is a great pick. I love this pick. Keon Coleman is my wide receiver 2B right now. The way that I differentiate him and Neighbors is, do you need a big X or do you need a shifty X? What are you trying?
Yeah.
Are you trying to get to put it into perspective of previous draft? Do you want Drake London or Garrett Wilson? Right. That's the definition of, like, when you're thinking of wide receivers between those two guys. And I think that Neighbors and Coleman, ironically, are better than both of those guys, like, right now in my grading process. So I love this pick for them, especially with again, I think the Saints are the hardest team to pick for, because we have no idea who's going to be on this roster, like, at all. Because they can go a million different directions. They can go a million different ways. We don't know who they're cutting, who they're restructuring. There's $70 million in the hole. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So I love it. I'm on the board with Minnesota at 21. And Kirk Cousins, his season is over. You have to address the quarterback room. And so I'm going to do it. I'm going to take my quarterback 3B in Bo Nix, the quarterback out of Oregon. I'm not even going to wait that long on it. I would have taken Bo Nix with the Atlanta pick. I have Bo Nix ahead of JJ McCarthy on my ranking board. And the fact that he's here and he's available, I think he's ready to start. I think he's got an arm, and I think that he's been playing in college. He's playing for so long. He's a 24-year-old prospect, and there's value to. There's a stat that recently came out. I wish I saved the article to put into the link in the description. But like quarterbacks that have played the 4th and the 5th year tend to see a lot more success in the NFL than the younger guys who are coming in. It's just because they've seen more football. And I think Bo Nix in Minnesota would do a lot of really good things. They have a really good wide receiver core there. Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver in all of football. Jordan Addison is having a really good year, despite of the injury, and he was doing really good things. So I love Bo Nix to Minnesota here.
Yeah, another guy who's been around the block, but probably has worked his way up into a mid to late first round player. I don't have him this high personally yet. And final rankings are a long way away, so it makes sense. Minnesota needs quarterback.
Yeah.
So I get it. And that leaves me up with Dallas.
Yes, sir.
So I'm between two players here. And I don't think I'm going to wait too much. I'm not going to think about this too much. I was actually I was really between two players. The one that I'm not going to take, they just locked up Terrence Steele long term to right tackle. I consider J.C. Latham who's still a little bit of a project, if you ask me. And I think he might end up being better interior than he is at right tackle. So I'm going to shift focus. I'm going to stay on the offensive side of the ball. And I'm going to take who I think is the next best wide receiver on this board, and that's Rome Odunze out of Washington. You pair him up outside. You have CD in the slot. Rome Odunze can just take the spot of either Michael Gallup or Brandon Cooks, whichever one's not on the team next year. And really dominate with strong hands. Good route running. Big body. Prototypical X guy who can get up the field and fly a little bit. So Rome Odunze is the Dallas Cowboy.
Yeah. This is a very Cowboys pick. We did a very similar pick last week where we took another wide receiver, and it's just they need to get CeeDee Lamb some help. We saw that this week where it's just CeeDee Lamb that's getting open and making plays, and Cook isn't as good as he used to be, and Gallup hasn't been able to fully recover. I love this pick, especially because he's a true X. I'm on the board with the Pittsburgh Steelers here at 23, and for me, I think that this is kind of an easy pick. They last year went at the top of the second round with the second round pick that they got for Chase Claypool. They went and got Joey Porter Jr., who has absolutely dominated this year as a corner for them, but their defense is still struggling on the back end. Now, I'm not even going to sit here and lie to you. I thought about the safeties. I looked at Kinjins. I looked at Nubbin. I even legitimately thought, what about Cooper DeJean on this defense? He can play outside. He can play nickel. He can play safety. He can really just be a weapon on that defensive back room. But I thought, you know what? I think it makes a lot of sense to get like an outside corner, to get a guy who's probably going to either end up as an outside corner or a nickel and has more of a defined role. I'm going to take Kalen King out of Penn State, former teammate of Joey Porter Jr., but I really want to get that cornerback help that they need. That for the Pittsburgh Steelers, they were really in this trade deadline on his name escapes me, the cornerback out of Chicago. They were the team that apparently was Jalen Johnson. They were calling and ready to pay him, and they were willing to make a big move for him, and they couldn't get the deal done. Now, there's still time in the offseason. They can go sign somebody. They can go do something. But for me, we know that they have the defensive line to get the job done. TJ Watt is one of the best players. Highsmith is a great partner on the other side of that. Joey Porter has been dominating. Let's go get him a running mate in Kalen King.
Yeah. No, I like it. And listen, this makes my pick up next for the Houston Texans very, very simple. I'm going to take a quarterback. No, I'm kidding. I'm not. CJ Stroud is him. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to protect CJ Stroud a little bit more. And right now George Fant's starting at right tackle. So
do remember that they just paid big money for their tackle and he's hurt. Not Laramie Tunsil, the other one. Titus Howard, and he's their right tackle right now. He's just hurt.
But that's okay. I'm still going to take JC. I'm still going to take JC Latham because at worst you have, a little bit of depth at the offensive tackle. If not, like I said, I think JC Latham can move inside, right? And he can play. Titus Howard is there. Titus Howard's been playing left guard for them, if I'm not mistaken.
Nope. He's playing right tackle. See, this is why I personally don't think I don't think they go offensive line because they just drafted Kenyon Green in the first round. They just signed Shaq Mason to big money, and they drafted 2 centers last draft. They took Patterson and Scruggs, but they're all hurt.
Yeah,
Kenyon Green is out for the year.
I'm still taking JC Latham. I think it fits here. There's too many moving pieces on that offensive line. I'm going to do everything I can to protect that investment in CJ Stroud, and Latham's the pick.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. I've said it before. I don't love the pick. I would have taken a wide receiver here. Ibuka's available. That would have been a great pick in my eyes. Mm-hmm. But I'm here with the Jets at 25, and this is a very interesting spot to be in if you're the New York Jets because you traded back to recoup some assets, and there's a lot of different ways that you can go here if you're the New York Jets, and like I know that this sounds crazy, but like Chop Robinson and Jared Verse are on the board. I'm seriously considering them. I don't know if the New York Jets are going to be able to bring back Bryce Huff. All of the tackles that I'm interested in are kind of gone, and I don't look at the offensive line as a need for the New York Jets. We've invested a ton of assets on that offensive line, and I think Mekhi Becton's playing well. I think Elijah Vera Tucker's going to come back and play right tackle. I think we've got our guard situation taken care of, whether that's Max Mitchell bumping in on the inside or whatever the answers are, Joe Tittman, and then you go find a center, whatever it is. And I think that the real thing that you have to seriously look at is wide receiver. You know, there is a legitimate like need there. Then this is a hard pick. This is a hard pick because like, what do you do here? I think that if JJ McCarthy is here, and I think that he will be, I don't have him this high up on my board. You take a look at him at JJ McCarthy as the quarterback. I think that if you're not looking at JJ McCarthy, you're maybe looking at Quinn Ewers if he declares. I think he goes back. We talked about that last year. I think you said it as well. I think Shedeur Sanders is going back. Mm-hmm. This is a very interesting spot for the New York Jets. Oh, man. And I think I'm going to take one out of your book. I'm going to take the wide receiver, Xavier Leggett, out of South Carolina here for the New York Jets. 6'3", big body, you know, partner him as an X. We need a wide receiver too in New York desperately. Garrett Wilson is the only guy getting open, and, you know, bumping Alan Lazard down to his true role as a wide receiver 3, run blocking wide receiver is exactly what we need. And you've thrown so many assets at this offensive line. I think you need to figure out a way to keep those guys healthy and then also figure out a way to make it work. I think Mekhi Becton is coming back. Laken Tomlinson can't go anywhere. Joe Tittman can bump in and play center. He can also play guard. You can find a center later on in this draft, or you can bring back Connor McGovern. I think the offensive line is fine. And while I would have loved to take a quarterback, there isn't one that I felt super comfortable here at 25. So you bump back and you say, you know what? I'm going to take a wide receiver and get a wide receiver 2 for this team because we desperately need it.
Yeah, I love Xavier Leggett. He's one of my draft crushes so far this cycle. But I'm telling you, you probably just lost a half dozen subscribers from your channel for taking him in this spot.
Oh, I know. Everyone wants Amarius Mims, but what did the New York Jets do at the trade deadline? We didn't hear rumors of them calling on Ezra Cleveland or offensive linemen. No, the rumors that came out was T. Higgins, Devontae Adams, and Mike Evans. Joe Douglas knows what the priority for this team is, and it's not throwing more first-round assets at the offensive line. We don't have enough first-round talent, as in weapons, for this team. Let's get wide receivers open faster than the pressure can get there.
Yeah. And that leaves me on the clock for San Francisco.
For the San Francisco 49ers, yes.
San Francisco 49ers. I'm going to go ahead and be pretty quick with this. I'm going to work under the assumption that they re-sign Chase Young. They're not trading for him if they don't have intentions of keeping him. That's my opinion and my opinion only. But you have Chase Young, you have Nick Bosa, you have Randy Gregory, I believe, for one more year. That's 3 guys on the edge. Clelin Ferrell, who's been playing very good this year. They still have Drake Jackson under his rookie contract. So I don't think edge is going to be, in the cards. The defensive backfield will be. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to focus in really on the nickelback position, the slot cornerback position, and probably take the best athlete in this class in Cooper DeJean. He's a Swiss Army knife. But I think he could be a very, very good slot cornerback. He has the chops to play split safety if you need to, next to Halafunga if you want him to in certain spots. But the talent is it's undeniable. Cooper DeJean, you are a San Francisco 49er.
Yep. Leaves me on the board at 27. I love this pick, by the way. I love DeJean. He's just a pure, just get an athlete in San Francisco, and they'll figure out how to make them work. I love this
Mhm.
pick. So Miami is on the board here at 27, and I have a little bit of a dilemma just because like I want to go offensive line, and Amarius Mims is right here. I think we went offensive line last week, and we went a different offensive line. I think we went Barton last week. I think I'm gonna go Mims. I don't know why I'm gonna try to talk myself out of it. I just think like you have a defense that can get things done like really, really well, but Xavier Howard is so bad. But like he's under contract until 2026, and they don't have an out like at all anytime soon. So it's just like, are you really gonna bench a guy that's gonna be making like $30 million a year, especially when like there's not someone that's like super available. I don't see them needing safeties. Yeah. Amarius Mims, you're going to Miami. Worst case scenario, you bump inside and you play one of the guard positions, but I think he comes in. I think he can play right tackle for them right off the bat on the other side of Teron Armstead. And when Teron Armstead eventually gets hurt again, you bump him out to the left side, and I think he holds it down pretty well there. And anyway, right tackle is the blind side for Tua. So boom, he's the right tackle blind side protector. There he is. Amarius Mims, you are a Miami Dolphin.
And that leaves me on the clock for Jacksonville.
Yes, sir.
I've said it before. I say it again. I think Jacksonville is a sneaky spot for wide receiver. Calvin Ridley, don't know if he's going to be back. Zay Jones is getting old. They have Christian Kirk, who lines up almost exclusively in the slot. So, oh man, do I do it? Do I take Emeka Buka here? It makes too much sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take Emeka Buka.
It's a good pick.
Yeah, Zay Jones, I don't know what his contract situation is, but like I said, he's getting a little bit long in the tooth. Even if it's not a pick for right now, it's a pick for 2, 3, 4 years down the road. The talent is undeniable. He can play in the slot. He can play a little Z. He's going to be a guy you can move around. And again, shifty, very Garrett Wilson-esque in his route running and yard after the catch ability. So Emeka Buka is a nice shiny new toy for Jacksonville Jaguars. And you're up.
Yeah. I'm on the board with the Lions, and I think that this pick is really easy. It's just Jared Verse. Was a top 5 pick in last year's draft. Isn't playing to the same level. He went back to Florida State to try to win a championship, and it looks like they're well on their way to do so this year. And it's one of those. I think Jared Verse, in my opinion, has that ability to kind of be the Jermaine Johnson of this draft, and he's going to fall down boards for no real reason other than like other players are going to get taken. But I think that he has the opportunity to really be one of the, if not the best edge of this class. I love Versus game like a lot. I think he's so versatile. He can play the run. He can play the pass rush. He can, and he can just affect the game in so many ways. And putting him on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson is just unfair. It's just not fair for the rest of the league. And so that's the pick. Jared Verse is going to Detroit.
I like it. And that leaves me on the clock here with Baltimore Ravens.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir. You have Baltimore and then Philadelphia.
So Baltimore. I mean, Baltimore's playing as good football as anyone in the league right now, man.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to really mess with that offense. I know they spent some capital in the past couple years at the wide receiver position, and Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers, Tyler Linderbaum, maybe a tackle. I mean, Ronnie Staley can't stay healthy. Morgan Moses is on the right side, but there's, the tackles start to get thin, in my opinion, at this spot. So yep. I don't want to reach. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fill a hole that they have in the defensive backfield. And I'm going to take a guy. He's a really fluid mover. He's got decent speed. He's not, he's not lightning, but very, very fluid. excellent ball skills, tracks the ball very well, physical at the line of scrimmage, shows premier instincts right from the get-go. I'm going to take TCU cornerback Josh Newton, 6 foot, 190 pounds, good fit. He can play inside or outside. Again, I think he might start inside and eventually move his way outside, but Josh Newton's the pick.
Yeah, it's a good pick. It's a pick that I would have made. I think that, like, again, don't mess with something that ain't broke, right? They got Zay Flowers. I would have looked at maybe another wide receiver to partner with Zay Flowers. I'm staring down the barrel of Adonai Mitchell, 6'3", big boy. I thought that's originally where you were going to go. Get them an X threat to match with Xavier Howard, to match with Zay Flowers. I love that pick. But that leaves me on the board at 31 with the Kansas City Chiefs. And look, I took a good hard look at, getting an edge here or going on the defensive line. And maybe, Chop Robinson is here, a guy that I took really high last draft, with the Rams, and seemingly seems like he's going to fall out of the first round unless you've got something crazy happening with the Philadelphia Eagles. But I think you have to get pass catchers for Patrick Mahomes. It is the Travis Kelce and that's it show. Rice has actually been playing pretty good for them this year. And I think they got him in the second round. They got him. Yeah. They got Rashee Rice in the second round, which is a great pick. But I think you got to keep going with that kind of like assets. Rashee Rice's speed, 6'1", 200 pounds, is running there. So I'm going to partner him with 6'4", 200 pounds, Adonai Mitchell, the wide receiver out of Texas.
AD Mitchell, man, is I see. To me, I think the counterpart over there in Texas, Xavier Worthy, is the guy Kansas City that has Kansas City written all over him. They fast, lightning quick, in and out, deep threat. That's what Kansas City. That's the wide receiver that Kansas City likes. So, AD Mitchell is a little bit opposite of that. So maybe that's exactly what they need—a little yin to the yang.
Yeah, I think that they've got a couple of guys there that I think that can kind of fill that speed role. Like they've got your, like Kadarius Toney and McCole Hardman, and they got him back. They got Sky Moore, and like I think that the big problem is no one is really garnering any type of respect and pulling any type of attention that's not named Travis Kelce. So what I was thinking and my thought process is, what if we get some different levels to this wide receiver room? A big guy, a small guy, a shifty guy, a quick guy, a hands guy, and just get a bunch of different types of pass catchers. And that's where I went with AD Mitchell, because they don't have that right now. They don't have a 6'4" big body, go up and get it. That's not a tight end. That's a true wide receiver. I like Xavier Worthy, and I actually have him graded higher than Mitchell. But what Mitchell has that Worthy doesn't have is about 3 inches.
Yeah. No, I got you. Makes sense. Philadelphia's up for me, and they're the last pick of this mock draft here. 7-1 or 8-1, whatever Philadelphia is. I mean, they're pumping on, firing on all cylinders.
Only lost to the New York Jets.
To the New York Jets. Now they have a bunch of guys that are hurt and will be coming back. Hopefully for them soon. And I'm thinking mainly Cam Jurgens, who I think can hop back into that right guard spot, maybe replace Jason Kelce if he finally decides to retire next year. They did spend a 3rd-round pick last year on Tyler Steen, the offensive lineman from Ole Miss, who can come in and kind of fill one of those interior slots as well.
I think he's playing right guard for them right now.
Yeah. So I'm gonna shy away from Howie's forte in the trenches, and I'm gonna attack the back of the defense, and I'm gonna give Kevin Byard a running mate in Cam Kitchens. He's too talented not to go in the first round. Just a perfect fit here. Good strength, willing to run support, physical, and the very, very fast. Good, gets out of his back pedal quick, and can flip his hips, reads receivers very well in the routes, breaks on the routes and so on and so forth. Cam Kitchens to me would be an absolute steal for the Eagles here at 32, and probably a guy that when push comes to shove come April, he won't even sniff this far down in the first round. But he was here today, so he's the pick. Cam Kitchens, you're an Eagle.
No, it's a great pick. There's a couple of these guys that like, there's no way that they're going to be available this far down. Jared Verse, Cam Kitchens, Chop Robinson is going to be a first round pick. Somebody's going to take a swing on a guy like that. Like, I don't know who, but you're not going to pass up on those traits. I think that the NFL is more and more becoming a traits league where you're banking on traits versus banking on, you're banking on ceiling, not on floor, where I think we're seeing that more and more and more. And so, I love the pick, and that rounds out all 32 picks of the first round for this mock draft that we're doing here.
If you can go back and change one pick, Tigo, that you made, which one would it be?
That I made?
That you made.
That I made. The easy one is the Nate Wiggins to Los Angeles. I would take Jerjon Newton. I think that's the right pick. I think that they should take Jerjon Newton. I think that's a match made in heaven. But if I'm being true to myself, the one pick that I would change is Caleb Williams going number 1 overall. I have Drake May as quarterback 1 in my class, and we'll talk about that more when we talk about our quarterbacks in depth in a later episode of the podcast. But I would have taken Drake May. I think he is a more polished, ready to play, and is just going to be. He's gonna once he gets to the NFL, I think he's gonna live in the top 10. I think like quarterbacks in the NFL. I really like Drake May.
Yeah, me too. I do. I still just think there's still something special about Caleb Williams that I think he's going to be, he's going to be number 1. Yeah. And it's not always the best player that goes number 1.
It's one of those things. Is are you taking the home run? Because if Caleb Williams hits, that's an insane quarterback, right?
Yeah, the ceiling is in the reality, massive. The ceiling is sky high in Caleb Williams.
Yeah,
and I think
I totally agree.
I don't think the floor is as very low either. So
I do. I think that if he doesn't go to the right system, and this is why I felt comfortable sending him to the Giants because I believe in Dable. But like if it was Arizona, like if it's Arizona staying 1 and they're telling him that they're going to pick him, I go back to school if I'm him. Because I don't think he is program proof. You know what I mean? Like Zach Wilson kind of needed to go to San Francisco for him to work in the NFL. Like, in my opinion, like he needed to go to that kind of system that was going to be able to support him and develop him. And he didn't. He came to the Jets and it didn't work out. But there are quarterbacks that are system proof. For example, Trevor Lawrence. It didn't matter where he went. He was handed in his first year. He was handed freaking, what's his name? Kicking kickers.
Who?
The coach for Jacksonville.
Oh, Urban Meyer.
Urban Meyer, right? He was handed Urban Meyer and still came out on the other end, like looking like an NFL quarterback. And it didn't matter because he was system proof. And I didn't think that he was. And that's my fault in evaluation. Yeah. But Zach went to the New York Jets and the system failed him. And so that's where I look at it. I think Drake May is kind of system proof. Wherever he's going to go, he's going to work eventually once you get him good coaching. Where if Caleb Williams doesn't land in the right spot, I don't know if he's going to work.
Yeah. I think that the only pick that I question now that we did it was, did I reach a little too high on Braylon Trice? Like I said, that's more my scouting and what I see or think that he is going to really prevail at. And again, Seattle has a tendency to kind of take their guys, no matter their board is always different than everyone else's. But that's probably one pick that I thought, if I could go back, I might change. And maybe take a guy like Jared Verse or something like that. So, yeah. Tigo, where can everyone find you? Talk to us.
Yeah, so I'm available on Twitter at Jets with Tigo. It's right there. Boom, Jets with Tigo. And then I do a Talking Jets channel where we talk Jets, Talking Jets with Tigo, where we, talk Jets, talk all that stuff. And so, yeah, follow me on there, do all that stuff. It'll be a fun time.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can always find me on Twitter at DC_NYJets. And please, if you haven't yet, please feel free to subscribe.
Hit the sub button. What are you doing?
Hit the sub button. Hit the bell for notifications. Like the video. If there's anything you want or any feedback that you want to give, positive or negative, drop it in the comments. It really helps the YouTube algorithm, especially for a channel like this that's just starting out and just getting out there. So any love that you want to give in this holiday season, feel free to throw it this way.
Yeah.
So this is episode 2 of the Draft Dodgers, and like I said, we plan on having a lot more content for you over the next few months. We're going to do some positional breakdowns, some more mock drafts, some more different scenarios, so on and so forth. So we're just getting into it. Hope you guys enjoy, and I hope you come back next week to see Tigo and I with the Draft Dodgers. So until then, Tigo,
Have a
sayonara,
good
my
one,
friend.
guys.
Bye.